Hello, in this video I will be ranking all of the new Mega Evolutions added to Pokemon Champions with the release of Regulation Set MB, which has been out for about 2 weeks now as of this recording. Within those last 2 weeks, we've had a couple of large grassroots tournaments, such as Smogon and St. Jude's, that have given us a good look at the Regulation MB metagame in the absence of official tournaments as we head into the World Championships next month, which will be played using this rule set. So I thought it would be an opportune time to sit down and rank them all in relation to one another. These placements are largely based on these large online tours like the ones I mentioned, so a largely best of 3 environment, an open team sheet, and open nature. But I'm also taking into account some ladder success, as I know a couple of top ranked players have made some strong teams with many of these megas, as looking at how the usage rates have stabilized over these past 2 weeks. The first mega that I'm going to rank here is Mega Raichu X, and I am going to place it in the C tier. It's seen very little play relative to its Y cousin. You can see the current sort of standings of it here as this recording, where you can filter on Loudmouth to filter for tournaments with over 100 players participating for them, and then for the Raichu, it's kind of like filtering for the Mega Raichu X Megastone. And as you can see here, it seemed like relatively little tournament play, hasn't had much success, especially when you compare success to its Y cousin, who has been able to get at some nice single-digit high placements at a couple of large tournaments in Snow White Gear, and overall more positive results than its X variant and over here. I think the main, and with Mega Raichu X, its main niche is that it has Electric Surge, setting up the electric terrain to boost the power of all electric type moves against grounded targets, while also preventing those grounded Pokemon from falling asleep. However, I think the key issue with Mega Raichu X and why it hasn't been seeing as much usage compared to its Y cousin are a few things. Firstly, there aren't many Pokemon that really benefit from Raichu's electric terrain right now. We don't have Paradox Pokemon in the game, Sleep isn't super prevalent, nor as broken as it was in previous generations. There are no terrain seeds in the game that an ally can consume, and the main abuser of this terrain, aside from Mega Raichu X itself, is our Charodon, who effectively gets a free Life Orb boost to its Electro Shot, which is all nice and everything, but there are other megas that you can be using with it instead that give it a bit of a better sort of like offensive synergy in terms of type coverage. The second point is that, contrary to many people's expectations, myself included, we did not see the return of other terrain setters, most notably Rillaboom and the Indeedee, back into the format, making it all the harder to justify using Mega Raichu X as a counter to the archetypes that they enable, since right now they're just non-existent. For those reasons, I can't justify placing it any higher than C tier. Raichu Y, on the other hand, has seen a lot more usage, but is a very difficult mega to pilot due to its minimal bulk with 60 HP, 55 defense, and 80 special defense. Even neutral stab moves such as a Black Glasses boosted Sucker Punch from King Gambit send the Willow Mouse cowering back to his Pokeball. That said, its main niche is really excelling as a glass cannon with high speed and high offense. But what really sets it apart from its X counterpart is its ability No Guard, making all of its moves 100% accurate, allowing it to use Zap Cannon and Focus Blast to their full potential. Unlike Raichu X, Raichu Y has at least seen some success in top-getting a few of these large online tournaments, getting a couple of single-digit placements, and even a couple of them, but it is one that does require a lot of support. So as you can see here, like this one over here had Fake Out and Redirection support with Instant and Sinister, but there are other teams that kind of focus more so on like hyper offense with Tailwind support from Whimsicott over here, some priority blocking at Ferrograv to protect it against stuff like Fake Out, Sucker Punches, other strong priority moves that with its low bulk can threaten to at the very least two-shot it. So it is a mega that does require a lot of support, but people have been able to make it work in these larger venues, so I'm going to place it in B tier for now. As for Mega Metagross, This is the first one that I'm going to place in the S tier. I think this is the best format for Metagross so far within this decade. It greatly appreciates having its Mega back and existing in a relatively low power format. Base 110 speed allows it to easily outspeed a Mega Flood and threaten an Oko with Tough Claw's boosted Iron Head. Now, it did lose access to Heavy Slam, so it's not going to one-shot a Flood if it's intimidated or if she's behind screens or something. However, speaking of screens, it can easily get rid of those with Psychic Fangs, which is also boosted by Tough Claws, giving it another strong stab move. On top of that, it's got a pretty wide move pool with Thunder Punch, Ice Punch, Rock Slide, Zombie Tantrum, and Body Press, which even though it's not stab, it does do a lot of damage off that base 150 defense stat upon Mega Evolving. And it has seen pretty respectable usage across a large number of these large online tournaments, and is even able to win a 100 plus person an online tour paired with Mega Floette over here, with several others also making top cut over here. So overall, it's been a very strong, very consistent Pokemon that can threaten a lot of damage and matches up pretty decently can match up pretty well into the Zard Y and Floette teams that continue to remain dominant when under the right board position, while not being over-centralizing itself. And so I'm going to go ahead and place it in the S tier for now, out of all of these new Megas here. As for Mega Staraptor, this was probably the most hyped of all the new Megas added with this new ability of Contrary, inverting any stat change that it would receive from moves and abilities. For example, Close Combat raising both its defensive stats by one stage, each rather than lowering them, Intimidate giving an attack a boost rather than an attack a drop, and it's been a pretty popular Pokemon on ladder. I myself got back to Master Ball this season using Mega Staraptor, and I believe if we go over to the current usage stats, let me give it a shift over. Yeah, if we go over to the current usage stats, right now it is currently the most used of all the new Megas here. So going up here, yeah, we see it's currently sitting at number 13, most used of all the new Megas added, followed closely behind by Swampert, who we're going to be talking about a little later on today. Okay, but overall, and similarly, and in the best of 3 tournaments, how's it been performing there? If we look over here, it's been doing okay. It's been top getting a couple of tournaments, getting single-digit placement, and it's at them and the like. But unlike Metagross, it hasn't won any tournaments as of yet. It hasn't won any of these large 100-plus player or tournaments just yet. It isn't a bad Pokemon by any means. I don't think it's as fraudulent as people are saying online. And I think it does have the potential to win some of these tournaments over here and the like. But I think overall I'm going to place it at the A tier for now. I think it's a solid, probably like low A tier your Pokemon. You can maybe make a case for it being B tier, but I'm going to place it in A tier for now. As for Pokemon that I feel is probably not going to get as much debate is Mega Scolipede, which is D tier. Not much to really say, it just hasn't really seen any success in tournaments nor on ladder. On top of just low usage across the board, it really got the short end of the stick when it came to abilities. As Battle Armor just isn't a great ability for it, like, not getting crit is nice and everything, but it would have appreciated a much better ability. And on top of that, Bug Poison just isn't a good typing, neither defensively nor offensively, and for those reasons I just can't really justify placing it any higher. Also kind of sets a pretty awkward speed as well. I wouldn't say awkward, but it does lose a lot of speed upon Mega Evolving, where it becomes anti-synergistic with its base ability, one of its base abilities of Speed Boost, which would kind of incentivize you to use another ability instead. Or if you want to use Speed Boost, you could, but you would probably want to delay your Mega Evolution by a couple of turns, and those are turns that you're not really getting the most sort of mileage out of that Pokemon. On compare to say something like Blaziken, for example, which does keep Speed Boost on Mega Evolving. So for those reasons, I can't justify placing it any higher. And I honestly think out of all the Megas that I'm going to be rating here, is especially those that do go into the D tier, is probably the most likely to stay there, and just most likely just kind of stay fixed in its tier list position as the meta continues to develop over these next few months. Going to Mega Scrafty, I'm going to probably place it over here in the B tier. Double Intimidate is pretty crippling to many physical attackers, not named King Gambit, or Annihilate for that matter, and under Trick Room it can be an effective sweeper with a lot of staying power, thanks to its high defenses, plus those Intimidates. And it did actually win two in-person, where is it? Yeah. It did actually win in 2 100-plus player limitless tournaments, I almost said in-person tournaments there, but 100-plus player online tournaments, as a dual Mega on both of those teams, one with Mega Charizard Y, and another with Mega Gengar. Another also placed 19th at the St. Jude's tournament this past weekend, which had over 700 players participate in it. I'll leave a link in the description below for if you want to learn more about it and donate to the cause. It was really great. The tournament had a huge number of top operated players participate. It gave us a really good snapshot of the meta as a whole. And these high placements, while very impressive, I think they are more so the outlier rather than the norm. So I'm going to place it probably like around like, I'd say like either like, I think it's kind of like, maybe B tier, maybe a bit too generous for it right now. Probably like top of C tier for the time being. Could maybe go into B tier next season. However, I think with Mega Scrafty, there is that huge opportunity cost in using it, as there are better options for a Dark-type Pokemon with Intimidate and Fake Out, and on top of that, also gets Parting Shot. I'm sure I probably do not have to explain for the uninitiated who I am talking about out here, but for those of you who may not be unaware, I'm talking, of course, about everybody's favorite cat, Incineroar, who does not cost a Mega Slot. So there is that opportunity cost with using Mega Scrafty, but as seen, it's a cost that can pay off under the right team. Azure Mega Electros is going to be a solid C tier for me as well. Elevate is a great new ability, giving it a beast boost to its highest stat whenever it takes a knockout. With high offensive stats and a great move pool, you can easily run it as a special attacker or a physical attacker. Special may be better so you don't need to concern yourself with Intimidate, and Assault Vest is still not in the game. However, it hasn't seen really any strong tournament success, hasn't been common on ladder, but I think it's one of those mons that does have the potential to succeed and kind of potentially go into B tier, but needs more time to figure out. So I'm going to go ahead and place it in the C tier for now. I think I do have a couple of like placements for here. You can kind of like see over here like how like right now the highest I've been able to get is like 5'3", 5'2", so nothing really super impressive, especially compared to like how it's been doing just overall across the board here. So I think C tier feels pretty fair for it right now. As a mon that is not C tier, that would be Mega Pyroar, where Mega Pyroar is one of those mons that, upon seeing its stats from first Mega Evolving, really need a good ability to save it from C tier and D tier, and I think it definitely got that in its brand new ability of Flame Mane. This is an ability that boosts all of its fire type attacks by 50%, effectively giving it a free choice specs boost, and allows it to hit even harder than Zard Y in the sun. It actually even won on a huge online tour paired next to Cantonia and Ninetales with Choice Scarf, and has enjoyed pretty positive, pretty consistent results with that team, as well as similar compositions. For example, people running it on just like regular like standard like tailoring, probably with like Sunny Day Whimsicott here, perhaps maybe. Yeah, Sunny Day Whimsicott over here. You're kind of like as a sort of like manual like Sunny Day setter, and we've also seen it succeed on some Sunroom teams with Torkoal and Fergra as over here as another sun setter. So being able to see a ton of success on a wide variety of teams here, and I'm going to go ahead and place it in the A tier here for now. I myself tried out on team and tried out the winning place team actually, and had a lot of fun with it. Probably one of my favorite of the new megas. It's got great speed, easily outspeeding Sneasler. It did lose Earth Power coming into Champions, but I don't think that nerf really hurts it, honestly. The most successful Power teams have been running Heat Wave, Overheat, Solar Beam, Protect, so a very similar moveset to Charizard Y, where just like Charizard Y, Solar Beam is really the main coverage move that you would really want from this Pokemon. And so again, in terms of first impressions, I'm going to go ahead and put it in A tier for now. I'm pretty comfortable putting it there. As for Mega Malamar, similar to Electros, also a C tier Pokemon, albeit on the lower end of it in my opinion. Contrary is a good ability as we have seen on Mega Staraptor, but the problem with Mega Malamar is that it just doesn't really have the stats to threaten immediate offense the same way that Mega Staraptor does. On top of that, it lacks a strong stab option to quickly set up like Staraptor does. Superpower is a great move, but it's not stab, and it's not really helping against mons that would struggle against, like Flood and Sylveon. If Rillaboom were in this format with U-Turn, I would 100% place it in D tier with zero hesitation. But Rillaboom's still not in Champions, Instant losing U-Turn, and what I anticipate could be a fall in Mega Scizor usage with the introduction of Mega Metagross. I think C tier is a fitting placement for it, but I don't think it could go any higher than that as the format progresses. I think you can make some fun gimmicky teams on wire with it, but I just can't see it really thriving in that best of 3 environment. I just don't think it really has like that tools to make a deep run. Unless you have like a strong player who's like really committed to it, being then that's kind of like more of like an outlier rather than like an rather than like the rule. So I think C tier is a good placement for it. Mega Barbarical also is C tier, though I think with Mega Malbar it has a bit more potential to potentially go up into a B tier as the format progresses, but it does have a couple of things going against it. So what works for it? Rock Fine is a great top type offensively, but it's not really good defensively, and its 88 base speed is pretty lackluster in a format dominated by so many base 100 plus speed Pokemon. I think it has the tools to make a decent run under the right player compared to Mega Malamar. Alright, so C tier for now, maybe B tier next season, but I think C tier is pretty fitting for it right now. As for Mega Dragalge, it is definitely D tier here, and there's a key reason in why I feel it's going to stay in D tier. So let me show you something real quick. So we go to the damage calculator here, we calc for we say that Mega Dragalge is not KOing a 0 bulk invested full Hero Sludge Bomb. It's not KOing it. Granted, Mega Flood has an absurdly high special defense stat of 148, but with a super effective stab move, not KOing a Mega Flood with 0 bulk is a little underwhelming, especially when you look at its base form, who keeps adaptability, where, if I adjust this calc here, where with adaptability boosted by the Life Orb, it's easily one-shotting Floette with 0 bulk investment, and even if you do go like the full bulk investment, full HP, it's a high roll to KO Floette, so you have to invest a lot to live a Sludge Bomb from Dragalge here, and then you're gonna just like train out a lot of like offense that you would normally threaten with a Floette in that case. So with Life Orb adaptability, it's stronger in its base form than it is in its Mega form, which kind of begs the question as to why use the Mega in the first place. I mean, Regenerator is a decent ability, but it's more so good on support Pokemon like Amoonguss. It's who wants this kind of like soak up damage, switch out, and then come back with some more HP. Not so much more so for Dragalge, who one ideally wants to be in Trick Room, and so you want to make the most of those Trick Room terms, threatening offense, and so not really being incentivized to switch out and playing a more passive role of staying alive. Though I suppose you could run a Toxic set and try to stall out your opponent, but at that point you might as well just run Toxapex in my opinion and commit your Mega Slot to someone else. So solid D tier, you can't really convince me otherwise honestly. As for Mega Phalanx, also join Dragalge and Scoopy in the D tier slot. Its tournament performances have been very lackluster. Highest place one that I could find via Labmos was like 4-3. Mollifying just isn't a good type offensively nor defensively. It does keep Defiant upon Mega Evolving, so it's a little better than Dragalge in that sense, who probably wishes that it could keep adaptability upon Mega Evolving. But like Defiant isn't the greatest ability that really sets it apart by any means. I think it would have benefited more so from like a secondary typing. You also do suffer from that lack of synergy with No Retreat and Close Combat, its strongest fighting type move, nullifying those defense boosts. making you all the more susceptible to those powerful fairy type attacks, and just strong neutral hits in general, strong neutral stab hits in general, with its naturally low special defense and HP. And unlike the C tier mons over here that I think do have some latent potential, a couple of them, I just don't see any redeeming qualities in this little guy, so D tier. As for Mega Sceptile, also a C tier mega here in my opinion. It is one of the fastest megas in the format with a base speed of 145 on top of a high base 145 special attack. Lightning Rod is a really good ability, allowing it to redirect electro type moves while also getting a +1 special attack boost. It sadly does not get Stab Draco Meteor, but a +1 Dragon Pulse is still going to hurt, and at least get the grass version in Leaf Storm. It also did get access to Earth Power for that good coverage option. However, Grass Dragon just isn't a good defensive typing, especially into Mega Frostlass, who's still pretty popular in the format right now, and it generally is going to want a fast partner to proc its Lightning Rod ability, such as Scarf Rotom Heat, which a lot of players have been utilizing over here in the lake. But that does make leads and gameplays a bit choreographed and exploitable, and as we've seen over here, just tournament-wise, hasn't been placing super high in these tournaments. And over here, there is like one team that actually did like place third in the 100+ player tournament, where they actually were not ranking Rotom Heat, but instead of ranking a bit of a more supportive Sceptile set with Shed Tail over here, it's kind of like Shed Tail into like some like Pokemon like May, like say like Torkoal like Wally set tricking with like Photograph. I have something of that sort there, which is pretty cool. But outside of that, like a lot of those other teams just haven't really been succeeding all that much over here, barely going positive if at all. So I think C tier is very fitting for it. As for Mega Blaziken, it is probably around like B tier for me. Speed Boost is a really good ability. Fire Flying is a very strong offensive typing. I didn't play VGC back in the first era Mega Evolution, but from what I understand, it was very popular with Bisharp as an intimidating deterrent, who has since evolved further into King Gambit, and we see a number of high-placing teams using it alongside Blaziken, so that synergy is still there. You could also run Coaching as a support move on to give fast coaching boosts to the likes of King Gambit, Garchomp, Sneasel, etc., or even just buffing the defenses of special attackers like Mega Frostlass in its base form. In fact, there actually was like a team that did win, didn't win, but was able to make a deep run in a tour with presumably Mega Frostlass. And did this Blaziken have coaching on it? It didn't have coaching, but it did have like Rockymon probably for the Charizard matchup and stuff there. So like overall it does have a lot of tools to succeed and stuff here. And with it keeping Speed Boost in its base form, it is one of those rare megas that you can use in its base form without having to commit your mega to it. Kind of like Aerodactyl, where you can use it to instead support another mega on your team, which makes team selection a bit more flexible than most dual mega comps, where more often than not, you're benching the Pokemon that you wouldn't mega. Overall, I think B tier is pretty solid for it right now, given its current results over here. And then as for Mega Swampert, it is the only Hoennstar that I can feel confident in placing in the S tier. It got a huge glow up with access to Wave Crash, as well, and with it the ability, Swift Swim is a very potent rain abuser, on top of just having good step options and Earthquake and high horsepower. It also has Wide Guard, which hasn't seen as much usage, but is a good support move to have in its toolkit. It also is the only one of the Hoennstars that has seen really good consistent results in tournaments, and the only one to have won a large tournament so far, especially as the new Toy Syndrome is starting to wear off with the first season of this format closing out next week. I think Rain back in Regulation MA really struggled with having a strong, dedicated mega for those archetypes, with most people trying out mons like Deonite or Scizor to varying degrees of success. But I think Swampert, and to a similar extent Metagross, who also is a popular dual mega option with it, it does feel like a glove on these teams. So I think it's a solid S tier Pokemon out of all these Megas listed here so far. Now, as for Mega Mawile, our last Pokemon here, I would say it's a low A slash high B tier Mon. I'm a bit more inclined to put it in B tier for now. It's basically Zacian at home. Steel Fairy is one of the best typings in the entire game, both defensively and offensively, and huge power takes its offense to pre-nerf Zacian levels of damage. It gets two really good abilities prior to Mega Evolving, Hypercutter and Intimidate. Hypercutter is really good for blocking opposing Intimidate, while Intimidate itself is just a really good ability, lowering the attack stat of the opposing Pokemon. It's also got great coverage moves in Sucker Punch, Rock Slide, and Ice Punch, and has had some pretty decent results in these tournaments, with a few placing top 16 at these large tournaments. One even got 23rd at the small Ogon tournament, which had over 800 players if I recall correctly. Another was able to place 26th place at St. Jude, which had over 700 players. Both shy of top cuts, but still good nonetheless. And outside of that, hasn't had super impressive runs in terms of consistency the same way the other A-tier Megas have been able to enjoy. So I'm going to place it as high B tier for now. Could ascend to potentially A tier status next season, but I think B is pretty fitting for it. I think one challenge for Mawile players, something that I struggled with myself when I was using it on stream, is that it is really slow, so you do want to use it in Trick Room to get the most mileage, but opposing Torkoals in Trick Room will outspeed you, and it's run immediate OHKOs with Eruption or Weather Ball, so that can be a pretty rough matchup. However, we have seen some more successful players run Mawile on rain teams with Pelipper, are likely to assist in that matchup, which makes sense. And again, I think as the format continues to develop, it could rise into A tier in my book, but I think B tier is a pretty fitting placement for currently. And with that said, this is my final ranking of all the new Mega Evolutions introduced in Regulation Set MB. You let me know your thoughts on this tier list in the comment sections below. Do you agree or disagree with my rankings? Have you been able to enjoy some success with some of the mons I have placed in C or D tier? And just how do you feel about Regulation MB as a whole? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed this video, we'd greatly appreciate if you consider leaving a like or even subscribing to the channel. This is my first YouTube video, and I would love your support as I hope to grow the channel. I also stream about 3 days a week on Twitch if you do want to catch me live there, or playing teams with some of these megas like Mega Pyro or Mega Raichu Y, etc., or even some of these lesser used megas here. And I will have a link to my stream in the description box below. Anyway, that's going to be it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful day. Take care.